Hi everyone, here's Simone from the studio. Welcome to this video. This is my first attempt to create something in Pop, and I want to share with you this creation of mine. The main tutorial will be about how to sample a texture as an attribute and use it, which I think is a very powerful thing. So to start to use Pop efficiently. This creation will be shared in my Patreon with a detailed explanation. But for now, let's concentrate on where I'm using this technique. I am using this technique here with the Lookup Texture Pop. This guy here. And it needs a top to read, and you need to build your own sampler. The lookup attribute is basically creating a sampler. Okay. We are using text 0 and text 1, which is basically the UV of the point we are passing to. I'm using it two times, one for the directional vectors, the other one for the color that are derived from the motional field here. I am then analyzing X and Y. We'll do it in one pass, but whatever. So to have the overall motion direction of the picture, which I'm then applying here in the transform page of the third pot. This is what is making the line. To give a bit of these web spider feelings, I am using the proximity pot. This math is controlling the intensity of an attribute called color. Okay, so we have some concept to take away from here, which is I can read a texture. Reading a texture that needs something called sampler, okay, which is shown here that designer as a lookup attribute because you're using the lookup operator. The rest is pretty much what you do in any top network to achieve smoothness with data. You develop poi event to create a bit of momentum, analyze, and a fit for some reason. I will show you it. Okay, so beside this, there's nothing possible to recreate. It's very simple. We need some basic understanding. Okay, so I will now build a network so to show you how to sample a texture. This we can actually, let's say, we keep the webcam out. Take this, we collapse it below. I don't want this. Okay. Here we have me, I, and let's take a grid pot. Okay, let's take a grid pop. This grid pop can generate not only surfaces but also point directly. Point. Okay. What if I want to somehow use a texture, okay, and modify those points? Okay. So I can then create the optical flow feedback I need. So from my webcam. Well, set the feedback to 98, and I really much want to take the threshold really high. So as you can see now, we have a motion field which is taking consideration the motion from my webcam. The motion field we create is this one. Okay. So we can call this flow auto read flow. Okay. Okay, since we are in pop, which are anyway powerful, but all those pixels are too much. I want to find an agreement. So let's take info, drop this guy. You could create something elegant in chop. I will just do this, like restriction, restriction. Okay, and I use this as value, so to run a fit after the feedback, which is taking consideration a given percent as a read. So let's say now we have the word solution to match. Let's say we divide everything from 8. There's, I guess, related to match. Okay. But we can try with this. We can maybe go even smaller. We will see. So then we do again. We do the same for the the, the grid resolution. And we want also to drop a map here. And from this map, we want to divide the things to get the ratio. I use the ratio here. Okay, so we have an amount of point that makes sense. And I want to use a lookup texture. So to read my flow using the UV. The attribute I create is passes color. Let's get it. Well, we don't want to have this as color, but we want to create a vector for the direction, which is represented with an attribute here. Dir. Okay. And this guy is a vec3 since I omit the alpha. And this is a vec3 since we want to use the math mix to move the point of the grid using that value. So you do A minus P, you take P and the direction. So now you see when I move, something happens, which is very much too much. So let's actually shrink this down, put down. Let's actually shrink this down with a math. And multiply for something small, like 1 divided 16 or something. Okay. Okay, maybe 1 divided 30, you may enjoy more. Yeah, okay. As you can see, when I move my hand, the pop particles are reacting and then going back to the original position, which is very cool. Okay, so first things done, we create our first interactive thingy. Let's render it. The very simple render. And I want also to like zoom a bit here. And maybe, I don't know, put the material here. So either here, like power maybe for light. Okay. You see this because you see that nothing changed because maybe in here, yes, we don't know, we don't have the color. So let's create here an attribute for the color. Attribute, yeah. You want to create a color and make all white. And go passing by. Pardon, we were not having color because we were passing normal, but the normal of a point is not very much that you can calculate it. So yeah, this is why. So you have mean to go to the grid and set normal to none for now. Actually, yeah, it's good to have it to set to none. Okay, so now we can move point. Okay, but what if we want to make this a bit more 3D, okay? We could train those points. So let's put a trail here. If you put it after the color, then we create the color. The color will be passed through as an attribute, so trail. And now you see we are very much creating a lot of nice. We can set the trail length to 0.1 and the trail increment to 0.5. And now you have less line. They're going in the direction of this white. Okay. Let's say we want to go in the camera and set the settings to 1, the background color to 1, sorry. Now we have this, very nice. Okay, I guess here the train is also giving us also, but I guess we can create them somehow. Let's see, go back to the grid and tell that you have normals in the point. Okay. Something is happening. What if we increase the light a lot? Okay, yes, fine. Finally the light is working, doing something, okay. Yeah, okay, so now we can have also the light affecting our scene. So the phone is working, the material. And yeah, so we create this kind of piece. We can have another really nice twist to this interactive effect, which is in the trail, we have a transform page. Okay, if I set this to, I don't know, 2.3, see we're actually rotating those, okay? And I do really much like to create rotation based on our movement and apply this rotation to the trail. Okay, to do this, you can just drop an analyze pop. After the head, you take the analysis, which is already good, this ever is nice. And you pick top, and you just take RNG. Okay, then you go to the trail, and you know that if you want to rotate, you need to do the opposite, basically. So let's call it X and Y. I already know it's Y physics. Because you need to do the opposite, because what do you expect when you move then the left and right is actually a rotation in the Y, but we're moving on the X-axis. So, yeah. So the first one will be Y and the second one will be E. Okay, so now you're also kind of rotating the line. They're like moving a bit strange, I guess, for this trail. It's the one. Yeah. But, okay. So the lines now are also like are having a bit of direction based on the movement of your head. Okay. Now we create this effect, which is very nice, but it's not the end. I want to create something even better. What if we now work with a feedback? Let's create this feedback. So our initial position is inside, is outside the feedback. So it would act as initial position. Let's drop a feedback. Okay. And this feedback, it will be actually take, let's say we put a null here in between. I will call it a big brand. I will drop it here in the feedback. Okay. So very much now the particles are going everywhere. Okay. We need to limit them somehow. Okay. So make a bit of space here. Just our top stuff. It can stay here. We agree. Okay. So let's initialize here. And we go back to our simple grid of feedback. What we want to do now is to insert a limit, a loop in our, let's say, in our space that we can control. We can control time and space here. We are like that. So we can add a loop for power, like Avengers. You set a limit pop to be 3 and you loop everything. Okay. Loop, 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 and loop. I know this effect will look good if it's like big. So I will go something like I use the texture resolution. So I go like -640 here to X, and something big, maybe even smaller. We'll see. Let's do it big. We don't care. We have space. Okay. So let's then move the camera a little bit away and try to move stuff. Nothing happens. But what if we increase if we engage the feedback? Okay, in real time, you're actually sending a lot of stuff around. Okay. And those stuff that we are sending are actually looping in this space. So if we avoid the trail, say, more, or maybe we can make them smaller, like, I don't know, 64, something like this. Okay, you see now we are looping the particle in the space. We are defining, well, maybe the light also. We need to light everything. Yes. The camera rotates. Second. So this shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be here. And I can press H and center it. Very nice. Oh, yeah. Those are the particles. Okay. And they are moving inside of our loop. Very nice. So if we initialize this and we start it, we start to throw stuff around like this. So it's really nice. Control the situation where you have particle moving around. Okay, then we can add trail. And we start to see this is taking place. So we can also rotate those lines. I guess it's a bit too chaotic due to the number of this. So yeah, we should go here and make like 16. We should make a parameter for it to be a bit more organized than this, but whatever, just to show you. Good mod. Okay. When you initialize the loop, you start, then yeah, it's a bit more controlled and nice to play. Yes. Right. Okay, so we build our controlled space with particles that move based on our feedback in pop, which is very nice. Another things we may want is to use the proximity, which is very cool. So you can just drop a proximity. I want to make this, and yeah, let's officially do not much. Maybe to increase the distance. Yeah, also very nice. Very nice results. Then you can maybe merge those. And like both. Yeah, maybe you want to do the trailer. Let's can put a color here. You can add an attribute. Color. So you need to override the block already exists. Yeah, let's take it out from here. So we do this. Then make an attribute here, put color. Start. Cutting blocks here already exist. Not really. Oh, yes. From where? Not from here. Okay. Yes, of course, because inside of the, inside of the, of the train, there is a sort of feedback. Okay. So what I want to show you that you can create an attribute here called color for each stream. So I can do, now we can take this color and make this red. And the proximity make it another color. Attribute called thing. Okay. Layer this. The line or a color and the other it's another color. Okay. What else we could do? We could actually, I don't know, maybe I'll show you also how to use the copy pop, the copy sub. So you can click the copy pop, pardon. And then let's say we want to copy something in the position of the particles, which in our case is a box. Okay, I want to copy this guy here and send this to render as well. So just render to the pipe. I have this. Okay, and we can have uh, we can say that we want to make the size of the box based on an attribute and that we can modify here, for example, which is the, let's say, the normalized direction. So if they can normalize, or actually you can just take a matrix absolute. Let's take a normalize. So it's normalized in P. Now we don't want to normalize the direction. Set it to as a scale attribute here. And then if you move them, then they also scale differently based on where they move, which is nice. And then since we like, we can also take the same value for the rotation of this guy. So there are this kind of stuff that they can use. It's very nice. And as well, you can add a color here. So we can add an attribute. The top here, a color. Extrude. Finish. Okay. I hope you like it. So it was a bit long, but I think we get a lot of understanding of how to start using the top and pop together and how to sample a texture based on the UV. See you guys in the next one. Ciao.